Hey there, Starcraft 2 fans. Welcome to another team game analysis. I'll be here in the lower left-hand corner, the red Terran with my ally Alex, the teal Protoss. Over here in the lower right-hand corner, my other ally, out of my tree, the blue Protoss, and the purple Protoss, Eric. Up here in the upper left-hand corner, our opponents are Ong, or something to that effect, and Cold-Blooded, the green Zerg player. We have Raden, the yellow Protoss player, and Double Rider, the orange Terran player. Unfortunately, this particular match is going to be a little bit difficult to analyze, simply because this player leaves very early on. I'm not sure exactly why. There was no pressure or anything that was applied. He just decided that he didn't want to play anymore, so he left the game. I will go ahead and wall off for my ally here. You'll notice in a few seconds that my ally will ask me to hold the line while he finishes building up his forces. The main reason I want to cast this game is because I want to show how the initial scouting can really have an effect on the game, and how getting just the right defense in some cases can really help you hold the wall, hold the line, and prevent your opponents from really doing a lot of damage. You'll notice that the pink Protoss player going pretty standard build, got quite a few probes already. Got his pylon gateway going down. The green Zerg player sending out an early drone, so obviously looking to early expand. The yellow Protoss also doing somewhat of a standard build. A lot of probes going down. Don't actually see. Actually, has quite a few queued up there, and here goes the gateway. It looks like. So the orange player finishing up his barracks right now. But like I said, he will be leaving very shortly. He does get his gas down. Now, it's important to note, when you leave, or when an ally leaves, you do get all the income from their minerals and their gas, and it's shared between everyone, so it's not entirely detrimental when your ally leaves, but it's always more difficult because there's one less set of eyes helping your team, watching your team, and building up an army. If we look over here at purple and blue, they're basically just walling off quite a few gateways. Purple looks like he's going for probably, I'm not even sure what he's going for. He has a gateway, a forge, and a cannon, so maybe just looking to build up some really good early defense. Myself throwing down another barracks, obviously to help finish off this wall, and the teal Zerg player has apparently a misrally. Oh no, I guess he's just rallying for his gas or something. A couple of drones just hanging out there, not exactly sure why. Orange does go ahead and leave the game. He has a barracks, 2 supply depots, his gas is up and running, and he has quite a few workers on minerals. So those minerals are all going to be split between the rest of their team, so it's not like they're at a complete disadvantage. Green obviously has decided to throw up his expansion here. You can notice, because there's no trails on the map here, that we actually haven't done any sort of scouting just yet. Purple is going to go ahead and throw down his expansion shortly, maybe. He only has 100 minerals, so it's going to be a while. Probably a little bit early on that probe being rallied down there. Cybercore just now going down, getting the double gas up, so probably going some type of tech build, especially since he brought in these early cannons to put up some defense. Myself basically just throwing down a factory. Gonna go a little bit of siege mode in this one, simply because siege tanks are really good. They produce a lot of defense. Sorry, that was my phone ringing there. If we look over here at the pink Protoss player, we'll notice that he's going very heavy on the gateways. It's a little bit unusual. Probably a 6-gate build is not the most common thing on one base, but I guess that's guess he just wants to pump out a lot of units at once, just not very often. The green Zerg player does have his expansion up and running now. He only has a couple drones over there mining. He's pretty well saturated here at his main, so not really sure why he hasn't transferred some of those workers over to the high yield, really bringing some extra minerals. If we take a look over here at the units tab, we'll notice that blue actually only has 4 zealots. If we look at purple, he only has 20 probes, so hasn't actually produced an army yet, mainly just macroing up. The green player, again, really no sort of army to speak of. We do have a couple of stalkers and some zealots out for blue now, and some marines out for myself, but other than that, nothing really to speak of. So let's just speed things up just a bit here. Right now, there's no scouting that's been done. You can see there's still one strip of the map that has no sort of path through it. Now, I did point out that he has a lot of gateways. My teammate obviously thinks that's pretty amusing. and does make a good point. He can't power all those unless he expands, which he is not. So without this expansion, without these minerals, without this extra gas, he's really not going to be able to warp in a lot of units. If we look at just the production on these, we'll see that he did warp in 6 Stalkers, which he did use all the warp ability for those, but and there he goes warping in again. So obviously he had a lot of minerals saved up, but again, with the cooldown of these gateways and the amount of minerals he has coming in, he's not going to be able to really do any sort of expansion. Now, this is really the biggest point of this match, was that scouting is king. And when Erock or Eric brings his probe up here to scout, he does notice that green has taken this expansion. Now again, green never really saturated this, never really got any sort of benefit from it. He did get the gas, and that is somewhat of a benefit, but realistically he would have been much better off getting these gold minerals, which is the real reason for taking this expansion. If you're going to take this expansion, and you're only going to get the gas, which gives you the same amount of gas as this expansion, why didn't you just take this expansion to begin with? So we'll notice that blue's going to bring in his units, purple's going to bring in a few units. He's going to lose, cold-blooded, the green Zerg player's going to lose 2 overlords, which is 200 minerals, an expansion, which is 300 minerals, and let's say a handful of drones, say 4 or 5 drones. I think he had at least 8 there. So, you know, that's at least 300 or 400 more minerals, plus the 2 extractors. So he just lost a good 1,300 minerals worth of food, maybe more like 1,000. But look over here. Actually, I guess only 875, so I guess I'm being a little bit aggressive with my numbers. Pink does come up here with his fleet of Stalkers to wipe out the rest of this attacking force, but realistically the damage has been done. Green's expansion is gone. He did go ahead and get a Spore Crawler down. Not really sure why, because he hasn't seen any sort of air units yet. Probably just a precautionary measure. But mainly just pumping roaches. He doesn't actually go for anything besides roaches. Getting the upgrades, getting the burrow upgrade, obviously wants to try and do some sort of sneak attack. Unfortunately, he's going to have a difficult time because I have detection at my front gate, and the Protoss players have detection at their front gate. So unfortunately, that burrow is not going to have much of an effect. Now they have decided that since obviously we made some type of push, they're going to go ahead and make some type of push as well. You notice the green Zerg player, is coming down here to join up with the Protoss player as well. But what's important to note is that if we look at our wall, we have several siege tanks, a couple Vikings, and some Marines holding our wall. If we look over here, they have a couple cannons really, and that's about it. And they did just lose quite a few of their units, so we know that they don't have a lot to defend with. But if we take a look down here, we notice that the Stalkers are going to run up here, and unfortunately without that blink technology there's no way they can blink inside of our base to do a maximum amount of damage. So walking up this ramp, they're going to lose probably 3 or 4 Stalkers here, simply because the siege tanks are going to get off a couple of volleys of fire. Now with my gate closed, unfortunately the teal player can't get through, and after I open it he decides that may not be the best idea after all anyway. So with this attack, because Pink didn't wait for the roaches to finish, he didn't get extra damage, he really wasn't able to do a good amount of damage. Now one thing to note, a big thing to note here, is that during this time Purple decided that he was going to tech to Dark Templar. Dark Templar in team games are very fun to use. They're very frustrating if you're getting them used against you. But they have to be used very effectively, and in this match I think they were used extremely effectively, because if we look up here at the yellow Protoss player, he has no Robo Bay, so that means he has no Observer. If we look over here at the green Zerg player, he does actually have his lair. He could have an Overseer, but if we look at the Units tab, I think we will find that he does not have an Overseer, which he does not. If we look here at the pink Protoss player, again, no detection, no Robo Bay, so no detection, no Observer. So these Dark Templar here are going to go completely unchecked. They're going to be able to do a maximum amount of damage. With every swipe, they're doing 45 damage. These Stalkers only have 80 plus 50 health and shields, so, or 80 plus 80, excuse me, so 160. So basically 3 or 4 hits from those Dark Templar and they're going to be done. So the Stalkers are going to come up here and do quite a bit of damage. In terms of this expansion, I think it does fall, which is definitely a good pickup for them. But Pink does go ahead and leave the game. Obviously he's a little bit depressed about the Dark Templar, which are just completely rolling through his Stalkers. Green's bringing his roaches in here to do quite a bit more damage. But with these 3 plus 2 Dark Templars, or Dark Templar, excuse me, there's really not going to be much pressure that's going to be able to be applied, because unless they can detect these and take out this army, their army's just going to get whittled down so much that it's going to have no effect. The Stalkers up here on the high ground are doing damage, and these units are basically just focusing down cannons and gateways, which are all easily replaceable. Armies are harder to come by when it comes to replenishing them, and gateways, you just rebuild them, throw down another gateway. So just that easily with these Dark Templar, you notice how fast that army just melted away. These Stalkers basically took very little, if any, damage, and he really only lost one gateway, maybe a cannon, a couple pylons, and then his expansion. So really no great loss. At that point, we decide to attack, and realistically, the game is pretty well over. I mean, after they made that huge push, Pink goes ahead and leaves the game without an expansion. So once he's mined out, that's going to be all the minerals he has. Purple's going to go ahead and just tap that watchtower to see what's going on. But when he brings his units up here, we still see no Overseer. If we look over at Yellow, we still see no Observer on the map. And obviously, since Pink's left the game, we'll see no Observer on the map for him. So these Dark Templar are just going to roll through this base and completely just deal the damage. Take a look back over at Yellow. We do see carriers on the units tab here. So obviously, these carriers are going to be somewhat effective, but without a robotics bay or any sort of detection, he's going to really have a difficult time, because those Dark Templar are just going to roll into his base and do quite a bit of damage. I mean, 5 Dark Templar, realistically, if they just walk up this ramp, they're going to finish off that cannon in no time, and then they're going to be undetectable. So he's going to be able to walk through and just wipe out all of these Stargates, the Cyber Core, and all of his tech's going to be gone. The Fleet Beacon, all that's just going to be completely wiped out. So he does bring these carriers over here to try and put a little bit of pressure on. Obviously going to be a little bit of trouble for my siege tanks here, because they can't shoot up. Fortunately, I do have a few Vikings that I pumped out. I always try and bring out a few Vikings in team games, just because there's always that potential for one player on the other team to go Mass Void Ray, Mass Carrier, Mass Broodlord, Mass Battle Cruiser. There's always those silly attacks that I don't even know what happened there. It's kind of like Yellow just wanted to lose his units. He just sort of flew them over the top, and that was pretty much it. So I'm going to end this game right here, because obviously it's pretty much over. There's just too much damage going on. Yellow's the only player left in the game, and yes, he's producing carriers, but he's not going to be able to produce enough to overcome the amount of Hydralisks and Marines and Vikings and the Thor that we have, not to mention all the Stalkers that Blue is producing, and Purple is probably still doing Dark Templars. So I hope you guys enjoyed this match. In terms of scouting and positioning, I think it's really important to note how we were able to just basically touch this high ground Zelnaga and immediately eliminate this expansion. That was a huge pickup in the beginning. It really set them back in terms of economy. This second expansion finally did get down, but it never really went anywhere. Pink with his multiple gateways, probably not the best idea to produce. It's always good to go a more solid build. You think you want to try something clever and something cheesy or something more interesting when you play a team game. Maybe not always the best idea, because you're going to end up with a far smaller army than what your allies have or what your opponents have, and you could just end up throwing the game away just that easily. So hope you guys enjoyed this match. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Otherwise, if you enjoyed it, please feel free to subscribe. I look forward to casting more games in the future. And if you have any games that you would like me to cast, you can actually just message me on YouTube, and I will be more than happy to provide you with my email address, and we can hook up. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Bye.